My name is Gavin Evans, and this is my review of The Last of Us Season 2, Episode 3. And this review will have spoilers for the entire story, so there's your warning. But every week I think to myself, the show couldn't possibly get worse. And every single week they find a way to prove me wrong. This show just continues to make a series of baffling decisions, and it is one of the worst shows ever made. But let's begin by talking about the beginning, and we get this scene where Tommy says goodbye to Joel, and then Ellie wakes up screaming in the hospital, and then it cuts to the opening credits. And we then see Ellie again, and for some reason they decided to make her act upbeat, and she's trying to be funny and snarky. And I'm sorry, why would you decide to do that? She just lost the most important person in her life, and you've got her acting like this? Like, one of my favorite parts in the game is right after Joe dies, Ellie wakes up and Dina just says, "I'm sorry," and she looks at Joe and she's like, "No." Like it felt like a bad dream, but it's not. It really happened, and Joel is really gone. And then it cuts to Ellie in her garage, and just the look on her face. It looks like she has been crying for hours. It looks like she has ran out of tears to cry. She truly just looks like a broken person. And then Tommy comes in and they have their argument, they have their discussion, and at the end of it, Tommy gives her a hug, and you can tell that she really needed that. And it's such a beautiful moment, it really is. But to have her acting upbeat in the show is baffling, and then her scene with Tommy just lacks any bit of emotion. Like, Joe's death didn't affect me in the show because I didn't care for Joe and I thought it was terribly done, but you can still try to capture that feeling of grief and loss within this episode, and they just failed. They have the scene where Ellie goes to Joel's house, and it just feels inferior to the game in every single regard. And one thing that actually really bothers me is at the beginning of the last episode, Jesse and Ellie are talking, and Ellie says she wants to go on patrol with Joel, inciting that things are good between them. And Jesse's like, "Yeah, he said the same thing about you, but you can't, he's with Dina." And Jesse's like, "What's been up with you guys?" And Ellie's like, "Look, we're fine. I'm still Ellie, you're still Joel, we're fine." They tell you right there that everything is fine between them. But every week, the cast and crew of this show do a podcast, and I do listen to it. Despite my hatred for this show, I want to hear them defend their decisions. And it's never a good justification, but Craig Mazin is like, "Oh, we wanted to leave their relationship be a mystery." And I'm like, you didn't leave it a mystery. You made it very obvious they made up the night before. And this episode continues to act like it's a mystery, which I just find to be odd, because it's not. And then they have Ellie say every thought in her head, and it's just so on the nose. It lacks any bit of nuance or subtlety, so that continues to piss me off. I also still don't like the music here. Like, the music itself is beautiful, one of my favorite scores ever, but it feels so fan servicey in how it's used in the show. We also get the introduction to the sailor fights, and I'm baffled that they did that now. Like, why would you not leave it so we can discover who they are along with Ellie and Dina? Because when we get to the radio station, we're like, holy shit, who did this? There's mystique, there's intrigue. But just like Abby, they destroyed that and gave us too much information too soon. We then get this big section where the council is voting on whether or not a revenge crest is allowed, and this section just spells out the themes in such an obvious way, and I don't think it added anything to the story. It just felt like a way to fill in time, and if you cut that section out, nothing would change. But to be fair, I'll give the show an ounce of credit. I'm okay with how they're handling Seth. Like, it is unneeded, and I don't love it or anything, but I'm okay with it. I do hate how Catherine O'Hara is still a character. Like, she's just so unnecessary. And I find the entire idea of a therapist in Jackson to be stupid. And, okay, time to talk about, Tommy, what the fuck are they doing here? Tommy is staying in Jackson. He's not going on the Revenge Crest. Like, that is Tommy's character in the second game. Why are you doing this? You know, I get that they want to paint him like a leader and all that, but I don't think it works. And I think you're just missing a key element of Tommy wanting to avenge his brother. It feels true to who they are and what the story is and what the themes are. So I can't wrap my head around this decision. We get plenty of Ellie and Dina. They recreate the one scene which is done much better in the game. They already discovered the scars, and I'm like, why? You know, also, like, one of my favorite parts about discovering the scars in the game is listening to those whistles for the first time and trying to figure out what they mean. But you won't get that experience through the show. What else? I hate how they mentioned Curtis and Viper yet again. Like, is this the only movie that exists within this universe? It is fan service that has gone way too fucking far. The CGI at the end, I thought was really bad. And this show has actually had pretty decent CGI, but that shot of Seattle didn't do it for me. And look, I know it's not the game, but the game Seattle looks stunning, and there's this constant rainy, foggy atmosphere, and they can still bring that to the show, but as of now, I've got my doubts. And Manny isn't Manny at all. He's really not. And I find that to be a weird decision. And I feel like the last shot of all the Wolf's soldiers is supposed to be this big impactful shot, and it's really not. So, This show is absolutely abysmal. This episode is a piece of shit, and I just truly despise it. I really do. And look, if I was doing a Last of Us TV show or movie, I would tell the story of Basil or Ish, or I would tell a completely different story. But because they've decided to recreate the story from the games, I just feel like that was the wrong decision. I really do. Because the games does everything and infinitely better. But that said, the team behind this show is so bad, especially Craig Mazin, that I don't think it mattered what he decided to do. I think this show was doomed from the get-go. And I bring all that up because Until Dawn came out this weekend and people are pissed off that it didn't follow the game. But I would say this show is a good reason why you shouldn't do that, and why I think Until Dawn's approach is much better. You capture the spirit of the game, but you still make it feel fresh and new. But anyways, Last of Us Season 2, Episode 3, what did you think? Let me know in the comments down below. Like, comment, subscribe. Stay tuned for more videos soon. And Gavin, out.